We're now moving on to chapter 4, lesson 7. Basically, today's lesson should be super easy because we're kind of just going to put pieces together that we've already learned before, but calling it functions instead of equations. So function notation, we've already learned this. Function notation is always written as f of x, and it's equal to mx plus b, or whatever it's written as with the output on the right. Remember, this is just the name of the function. Yes? Everybody good with that? This is just the name of the function. By naming a function f, you can use it in function notation. And then this is going to help because we're going to get into where we're comparing, and I think we're actually going to do that today. We're going to graph like two functions on one graph, and we're going to compare them. So you're going to need to be able to say, hey, f is, steeper than g or whatever, okay? So that's why we're going to use function notation today. All right, so let's graph the function f of x equals 5x plus 1. Since it's in slope-intercept form, can I graph starting on the y-axis at the intercept? Since it's in slope-intercept form, can I graph it starting on the y-axis at the intercept? Yes. All right, so what is the intercept? What is the rise over run? 5 over 1. So I'm going to go to the y-intercept of 1, and I'm going to go up 5, right 1. Or down 5, left 1. Okay, moving on to this one. What is the slope here? I'm waiting for you guys to answer me. Negative 6 over 1, thank you. What is the y-intercept here? Negative 2, so I'm going to go to the y-axis to negative 2. Okay, if I want to, I can go down 6, right 1. Or I can go opposite and go up 6, left 1. Okay, on the next part, it wants you to use a function to solve for a given input or output, so you have to just read what it's asking for. So on this one, it says find the value of x so that the function has the given value. So if it says, let me get my highlighter, if it says find x, then you're not plugging in for x, you're plugging in for y, or the function, since there is no y. Does that make sense? So you see how it says find x? That means you're not plugging in for x. You're going to take this 2 and you're going to plug it in for the y part, the function part. So you're basically making an equation and solving it. So I'm going to say 2 equals negative x plus 5. And then I'm going to solve this equation. How would I get rid of plus 5? Minus 5. So I have negative 3 equals negative x, which just turns it to a positive 3. So x equals 3. Does everybody understand why I did not plug in for x? Yes or no? Because what did it say? Find x. That means I'm not going to plug in for that. I'm going to solve for x. All right, let's do the next one. For this one, I am finding x, so I'm plugging in negative 13 for the function. So negative 13 equals 4x plus 1. How would I solve this? Minus 1, which is negative 14 equals 4x. Then I would divide by 4. And negative 14 divided by 4 is negative 7 halves. Or if you want to write it as a decimal, negative 3.5. Okay, on the next one, I'm going to plug in for the function 4. So 4 equals negative 2x plus 3. Okay, how would I get rid of plus 3? Minus 3. So 4 minus 3 is 1. I'm going to come right here and write that. 1 equals negative 2x. And then I would divide by negative 2, which x is now going to be negative 1/2. Okay, the last one. What am I plugging in for the function? Negative 18. I'm going to come write it over here. So negative 18 equals 6x minus 3. Okay, to get rid of a minus 3, I would add 3 to both sides. Negative 18 plus 3 is negative 15. And then I would divide both sides by 6. And negative 15 divided by 6 is negative 5/2. Or negative 2.5. Either answer is fine. Okay, so on the ones we just did, it wanted us to find x, but on the next part, it wants us to evaluate given the values of x. So it's telling you when x equals. That means you'll plug those in for x, or if it's easier for you, just use your y equals button, which to me that's easier. So on these, I would use my y equals button. If you want, you could go plug in negative 3 for x, solve, 0 for x, solve, 2 for x, and solve. Or I could just go type the function in y equals. I'm waiting for everybody to get here. I'm going to type in, because this is y equals right here, yes? I'm going to type in 4x minus 3. I'm going to go to my table by hitting second graph. And I'm looking for when x is negative 3. What is y? So that's my first answer. My next answer, I'm looking for when x is 0, which y is negative 3. And then my last one, I'm looking for when x is 2. So when x is 2, y is 5. Am I going too fast or y'all okay? All right, let's do this one right here. Where am I going to go? Y equals. I'm going to type in the function negative 2x plus 4. And I'm going to go to second graph. Why are we not writing? When x is negative 3, y is 10. When x is 0, y is 4. And when x is 2, y is 0. Okay, let's go to the next function. This function is called g of x. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go to y equals and type in the function 3x minus 5. And go to the table. Okay, when x is negative 3, y is negative 14. When x is 0, what is y? Negative 5. And when x is 2, y is 1. And the last one. Go ahead and do the last one. Okay, you should have got negative 14, 4, and 16, yes? Now, I want you to read the next two, and I want you to decide, am I plugging in for x, or am I plugging in for y, the function? So read it and see what you're going to do. Okay, what are you going to plug in for? For y, the function. So this would be 1 equals negative x plus 8. How would I get rid of a plus 8? Minus 8. So I have negative 7 equals negative x, which x just becomes positive 7. Okay, for this one, I'm going to plug negative 6 in for the function. So negative 6 equals a negative 8x plus 10. I would solve this by subtracting 10. I'm left with negative 16 equals negative 8x. I would divide both sides by negative 8, and x would be positive 2. Okay, any questions on that? Now we're going to get into comparing functions. So flip to the back. So how many functions are you going to graph? 2. Now, we're going to graph this function, and we're going to compare it to what is called a parent function. And we're going to get more into that later, but just so y'all know, this is called a parent function. So the parent function is basically y equals x, and we're going to compare it to y equals x plus 3. So basically, do y'all see how they're the same slope? All they did was add the y-intercept over here. So they're wanting to know, what happens when you put a plus 3 on this? So first of all, let's go graph this one. What is the y-intercept of f of x? 0. So put a dot at 0. What is the rise over run of this parent function? 1 over 1. So up 1, right 1. And do quite a few dots because it's easy, just so that we get a really good line. And go ahead and draw a line through it. And you're going to label this function f. So you would go like to the edge of the function at the top and put f. Did everybody get that one done? Now let's go graph the new function g. Where am I going to start on the y-axis? At the 3, so put a dot at 3. Is the slope the same? Yes, so my rise over run is 1 over 1, so the same type of slope. And I'm going to label this G. Now that I have it graphed, what are they asking for? Give what? 2 comparisons. The first thing I'm going to say is that what kind of lines are these? So I am going to write G is parallel to F. And this is how you write parallel in geometry. You just draw 2 parallel lines. G is parallel to F. Now we're going to describe where G is located in comparison to F. So G is above it or below it? G is above it. How much above it is it? So you're going to put G is up 3. How easy is this? Pretty easy? Okay. Now, the next thing you need to know is these were parallel because their slopes were the... But if their slopes are different, then you can't use parallel as one of the comparisons. So the other way you will say it is which one has a steeper slope. The steeper the slope, the bigger the slope. So like if the slope is 8, 8 is way bigger than 1, so 8 would be steeper, okay? All right, go graph the parent function first. It's going to look just like the first one, so 0, 0, up 1, right 1. And label it F. Okay, now let's go graph the function h. Where's my y-intercept going to be? So I'm going to go to -3 and put a dot. And then my rise over run is positive 2 over 1. So I'm going to go up 2, right 1. Up 2, right 1. I'm going to label this function h. And I now need to give 2 comparisons. Which slope is steeper? How do you know? Well, number 1, the picture, but number 2, 2 is bigger than 1. So h has a steeper slope. So that's my first comparison. H is steeper. My next comparison, I'm going to just say what kind of slopes they have. So h has what kind of slope? Positive. F also has what kind of slope? So I'm going to say both F and H have positive slopes. And that is 2 good comparisons. And on your assignment, you're going to have to list 2 comparisons. I do not want you to say they're not parallel, okay? Only say parallel if they are. All right, let's go do a word problem. The gray wolf population in central Idaho was monitored over several years of a project aimed at boosting the number of wolves. The number of wolves can be modeled by the function f of x equals 37x plus 7, where x is the number of years since 2005. So everybody go to the x-axis and label it what they just told you. What is x? Years since 2005. So this would be 2005. This would be what? 1 year from 2005, so 2006. 2 years would be 2007. Makes sense? Okay, what is y? What are we talking about here? The number of wolves. The number of gray wolves. They just want you to graph the function and identify its domain and range. Now, how many of you think rise over run would be good for the numbers they gave us? I do not. So where could I go to graph this? My y equals button. So I'm going to go to y equals. I'm going to type in 37x plus 7. I'm going to get, if I hit graph, it's not going to help me. What will help me? Second, not trace, second graph. I want a table of coordinates to graph. So where am I going to put my y-intercept? At 0, 7, so somewhere like right in here. And then 1 should be at 44. So that's going to be somewhere like right here. 2 should be at 81, which is already off the graph, so these 2 dots are the only ones that will fit. Would it be a line or a ray? Why? Can't have negative years. Okay, it also wants you to identify the domain and range. We haven't done this in a while, so let's look at it. So the domain is the x's. Where am I at the lowest point on the x-axis? On the x-axis. So all the x's are what? Greater than or equal to 0. And for the range, what is the lowest point on the y-axis? 7. And all the y's are greater than or equal to 7. Okay, let me get y'all's assignment and let's go through the directions. Okay, put your name on it. Everybody has one. Everybody has their name, yes? Okay, on 1 through 9, they want you to evaluate the function when x equals. What button do you think will help you? I would do my y equals button and go to second table. How many answers are you going to have for each one? 3. Okay, go to 13 through 21. Notice that I whited out like 4, 5, 6. You'll see what I'm saying? So I made it less questions for you guys. 13 through 21, it wants you to find the value of x. So if you're finding x, what are you plugging in for? Yes, so you're going to plug the 9 in for the function. So 9 equals x plus 12, and then solve for x. Make sense? Yes or no? On 25 through 33, notice what I wrote right here. Which ones are you going to do? So you're going to do 26, 28, 30, and 32. Since we're not doing 25, I'm going to do 25 with you. All they want you to do is compare them. And how many comparisons do I want? All right, so let's do 25 as an example. The first thing I would write is G and F are what? They're parallel lines. So G is parallel to F. F is the parent function, so I'm always going to write my comparisons in terms of G. Where is G located compared to F? G is up 3 units. Please don't put that F is below, okay, because you're comparing G to F. So always put how G is. All right, let's go do 29 together as an example. These are not parallel, so would I even talk about that? No. Which one is steeper? F. So I would put F is steeper. And then I would talk about their slopes. Is one positive and one negative? Are they both positive? Something like that. So what are they? So F and G are positive slopes. Okay, when you get to the back, you're also going to do the evens, and you'll see that I wrote that. So you're going to do 34, 36, 38, and all of 40. So 40, A, B, and C. Okay, now notice I put graph G of X and the parent function F of X. So how many lines should be drawn? 2. And then you're going to compare them, and how many comparisons do I want? All right, y'all just shouldn't need that as an example. We did that. All right, does everybody know what they're doing? All right, get busy.